No, I've had like 25 surgeries in the last 10 years.
That's it.
Yeah, 10 back surgeries.
Hulk Hogan went through dozens of surgeries over the years, but in the end, his body couldn't take it anymore. Newly surfaced hospital footage captures his final moments, and they are far from peaceful. What Hogan faced in those last hours was more unsettling than anyone could have imagined. July 24th, 2025 will forever be remembered in wrestling history as the day we lost the immortal Hulk Hogan. The man who once told us to train hard, say our prayers, and eat our vitamins finally faced the one opponent he couldn't defeat, death itself. According to the Pinellas County Medical Examiner's report on July the 31st, 2025, the official cause of death was an acute myocardial infarction, better known as a heart attack. But the truth goes deeper than what was written on that death certificate. When the coroner's report hit the wrestling world, it was like a steel chair to the skull, revealing shocking medical details that no fan saw coming. The records showed Hogan had been secretly battling chronic lymphocytic leukemia, a type of cancer that affects white blood cells, something that had never been made public before his death. The Hulkster had been fighting a hidden war, one he kept from the millions of Hulkamaniacs who would have supported him through it all. Paramedics found this 71-year-old legend unresponsive, and what followed was a heartbreaking scene that would make even veteran responders' hearts skip a beat. CPR was performed for nearly 30 minutes at his home, with audio logs confirming resuscitation efforts were still ongoing at 10:28 a.m., but despite everything, he couldn't be saved. After his passing, the wrestling community paid tribute in a way that truly reflected his legacy. This wasn't just the loss of a wrestler, it was the loss of the man who turned professional wrestling from a small regional act into a global phenomenon that inspired millions around the world.
We would not be standing here right now, all of us together, if it was not for him.
Fan reactions to the coroner's report, which confirmed Hogan's heart attack and revealed his leukemia and atrial fibrillation, were deeply mixed, showing both sorrow for the wrestling icon and renewed debates over his complicated legacy. The Hulkamaniacs flooded social media as if they were storming the ring at WrestleMania 3rd, with emotions running high across the board. Some fans shared heartfelt messages that could make even the toughest heel tear up, saying things like, "Hulk Hogan fought leukemia quietly." Man, that's heavy. Rest in peace to a legend who carried so much. Others focused on the toll his career had taken on his body, writing 25 surgeries, steroids, and now leukemia. His body went through hell for our entertainment. Rest easy, Hulkster. Even Sylvester Stallone once recognized the unique aura Hogan carried. But that same larger-than-life energy that made him a global icon also seemed to build walls between him and those who cared for him most.
When we met, I guess it was 82, maybe 81, because we started rehearsing. He just came in and you knew that this guy had a glow about.
But this is where the story takes a darker turn than any heel turn we've ever seen. While the Hulkster was secretly fighting cancer, his family life was breaking down faster than a botched cage match. Brooke Hogan, Hulk Hogan's daughter, opened up about their strained relationship and her efforts to support him through his health battles in an emotional Instagram post on July 29th, 2025. After his passing, she revealed that she had stood by his side through nearly 25 surgeries, a heartbreaking testament to the long and painful road he endured. Imagine a daughter watching her childhood superhero father being cut open again and again, each operation taking away a little more of the man she once knew. Brooke even moved to Florida to be closer to him, hoping to offer both emotional and practical support as his health declined. But here's the moment that truly hits hard during their final conversation in the summer of 2023. Before Hogan's marriage to Sky Daly that September, Brooke poured out her love and concern for her father, pleading with him to slow down and focus on his health as she saw the toll his body was taking. She was essentially begging her own father to tap out before the fight took his life, but the Hulkster's pride was tougher than his legendary 24-inch pythons. Brooke described a painful shift in their relationship, saying that something suddenly changed and her father grew distant, as if there was an invisible wall between them that she just couldn't break through. The same man who once told millions to believe in themselves seemed to have lost faith in the strength of family. She revealed that after opening up to her about personal and business struggles, he slowly began to push her away, no longer wanting her around during his medical treatments or even as a...
So please help us honor him now as we give a 10-bell salute to Terry Bollea, the one and the only, the immortal Hulk Hogan.
While the wrestling world honored him with the traditional 10-bell salute, his own daughter couldn't even get a phone call returned. But if you think Brooke's heartbreak was the only family drama in the Hulkster's final chapter, brother, you haven't seen anything yet. Enter Linda Hogan, Hulk's ex-wife, ready to drop more bombshells than a WrestleMania main event. In March 2025, tensions between Linda and Brooke exploded publicly, exposing their fractured relationship and the conflicting stories surrounding their family's struggles. Linda posted an emotional video on her Instagram stories, expressing deep sorrow over how broken their family had become and reflecting on the pain that still lingered beneath the surface.
Something hit. I don't know what hit, but I look terrible because I've been crying. And yesterday I went to try to go have Botox and shit, and they bruised me like, I don't know. But it's been 15 or longer years since I got left Hulk Hogan, and my family is in the worst mess. Brooke doesn't talk to us. She's had twins. She got married. She didn't tell us. She had twins. She didn't tell us. She had a huge fight with Terry. I don't know how that reflected onto me, but she cut me out.
Linda was spilling more tea than a British butler, and the wrestling world couldn't get enough of it. She claimed she hadn't spoken to Brooke in almost 8 years and squarely blamed Hogan for tearing their family apart, calling him a complete liar and a sex addict. Her words hit harder than a prime Mike Tyson punch, each one striking directly at Hogan's already complicated legacy. But things soon took an even darker turn, more twisted than a steel cage stipulation. Brooke fired back with a lengthy Instagram post on March 27th, denying that she'd ever had a massive falling out with her father, and explaining that her decision to go no contact with both parents stemmed from entirely separate issues. In her emotional post, she accused both Hulk and Linda of severe verbal and mental abuse throughout her childhood, writing, "What little I'm addressing does not even scratch the surface of what I've dealt with my entire life." The family that once ruled reality TV with Hogan Knows Best had turned into a real-life soap opera, more dramatic than anything WWE's creative team could ever script. And just when it seemed the drama couldn't get any heavier, Linda delivered the most emotional finisher of them all. Only 4 days before Hogan's death, she posted a throwback photo on Instagram of herself and Hulk during their marriage, captioned, "The good old days." The timing was so uncanny, it felt as if the wrestling gods themselves were writing the storyline. One Instagram user even commented on July 19th, saying, "I hope Hulk recovers," hinting that rumors about Hogan's declining health were already spreading, though Linda didn't respond at the time. Then came the heartbreaking twist that would make even the toughest wrestling fan tear up. After Hogan's passing, Linda returned to that same post and commented, "I had no idea he would pass away this soon. We all really thought he would make a comeback. Big surprise. We are all devastated." She confessed that the news shattered her, admitting, "It's hitting me so hard. I loved Hulkster more than he loved me. It hurt when he cheated, but he was so famous. I sort of understood, but it was crushing." The same woman who had spent years calling him a liar and worse was now pouring out her grief to the world, cutting what felt like the most emotional promo of her life. She reflected on their 24 years together, saying, "We spent every minute together for so many years. I never got over him or started a real relationship with anyone else. I missed him. I've been weeping all day. The finality, it's just shocking." Linda went on to say, "I still felt that even though we were broken, we were still a family. It's so hard to accept that he's really gone. I tried to stay strong for Nick, but I'm falling apart now. I love you, Hulkster. You were my man, the only man for me. R.I.P. But the family drama wasn't done hitting with its finishing moves just yet. Next came the story of the Hulkster's road to redemption, a path marked by faith, surgeries, and second chances. The journey of redemption is never an easy one, and for Terry Gene Bollea, the man behind the Hulk Hogan persona, it was filled with more scars than a hardcore wrestling match. In the final decade of his life, Hogan underwent more than 25 surgeries, including 10 back operations, knee and hip replacements, shoulder repairs, and even a 4-level cervical spine fusion in early 2025.
No, I've had like 25 surgeries in the last 10 years.
That's it.
Yeah, 10 back surgeries.
Brothers and sisters, when we talk about paying dues in the wrestling business, no one paid a heavier price than the Hulkster himself.
He was a force to be reckoned with.
You know, the thing, I had lots of chances to sit down and talk with him, and doing Rocky III for him was one of the biggest things in his life. And he was so proud.
Sylvester Stallone once recognized that beneath all those surgeries and struggles, Hogan's pride in his craft never faded. Let me paint you a picture more brutal than any steel cage match you've ever seen. Hogan's medical history was packed with major health challenges made worse by decades of physical punishment in the ring and his admitted steroid use during the 1980s and early 1990s. The same man who once body-slammed Andre the Giant in front of 93,000. Roaring Hulkamaniacs at the Pontiac Silverdome had been body-slammed by life itself, again and again. The operating table had become his new ring, And unlike WrestleMania, there were no scripted victories here. Each surgery was a real fight against Father Time and brothers. Father Time is undefeated. Reports say Hogan's health took a serious downturn after his neck surgery, with his close friend Eric Bischoff noticing that Hogan struggled just to speak during one of his last visits, a clear sign of his growing frailty. But this is where the Hulkster proved he still had the heart of a true champion. Instead of drowning in self-pity like a washed-up has-been, Terry Bollea began a transformation so powerful it made his famous heel turn with the NWO look like child's play.
Well, the truth is, truth be told, before I wrestled, I always kept a case of beer in the dressing room.
Yeah.
Because the boys never had that treat. But when I was around, I had that. A little bit of stroke back then.
Yeah.
I'd keep a case of beer and the boys would hit it before we go to the ring. Made the matches much.
The constant pain eventually drove Hogan to rely on prescription painkillers and alcohol, something he spoke about openly in a 2023 People magazine interview. But in true Hulkster fashion, he fought his way back and overcame those addictions by committing to a sober lifestyle and turning to CBD for relief. Picture this, the man who once partied with rock stars and Hollywood elites, living a life so wild it would make even the $1 million man jealous, suddenly decided to go cold turkey. No more pills to dull the pain that felt like taking a steel chair to the back every single day. No more alcohol to drown out the memories of what his body used to be capable of. Just pure, raw determination, the same kind of strength and willpower that helped him defeat Macho Man Randy Savage at WrestleMania 5.
I've had a lot of back operations. He said 10 plus, and yet he never complained. He just tried to persevere and be as pleasant as possible.
Stallone could see that beneath all the pain and surgeries, Hogan was still fighting like the champion he had always been. According to a 2023 Men's Health article, Hogan lost 40 pounds through major changes in his diet and exercise routine. When you're living in a body that's endured more punishment than a jobber in a handicap match, losing 40 pounds isn't about vanity, it's about survival. Every pound she'd felt like lifting another burden off his weary shoulders. But the real transformation went far deeper than the physical. It was spiritual. The same man who once thundered, "What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?" had begun asking a much different question. What's God going to do with the time I have left? In December 2023, Hogan and Sky Daly publicly shared their faith through a baptism ceremony at Indian Rocks Baptist Church in Largo, Florida, marking a powerful new chapter in his journey.
I just get tired of crashing and burning. I get tired of making mistakes and getting up and moving forward. I get tired of getting so many scars on me. And, I got to a point in my life before I met Sky, before I had the baptism, where I'd had enough. I was sick and tired of myself.
The sight of the Hulkster getting baptized was more surprising than when he dropped the leg drop on Andre the Giant. Here was a man who had spent decades portraying a larger-than-life hero, finally acknowledging that there was something far greater than Hulk Hogan himself. The iconic yellow and red had been replaced by pure white robes, and the Hulkamaniacs were now joined by a new kind of believer. In the months leading up to his death, Hogan stayed active despite his failing health. He launched Real American Freestyle, an unscripted professional wrestling league designed to showcase elite athletes, with its first event scheduled for August 2025, but it never came to fruition. Even while staring down his own mortality, the Hulkster was still finding ways to give back to the business that had given him everything and taken just as much. This was the perfect reflection of Hogan's lifelong struggle with self-control. Whether in the ring, in Hollywood, or in his personal life, fans watched their childhood hero evolve before their eyes. This wasn't the cocky, mustache-twirling Hollywood Hogan from the NWO days, nor the all-American hero who told kids to say their prayers and eat their vitamins. This was Terry Bollea, a broken man trying to rebuild himself one day at a time, using faith as his steel chair and prayer as his finishing move. Politically, he had also grown more outspoken in his support for Donald Trump, appearing at a rally in Madison Square Garden in October 2024, and later speaking at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee just 3 months before his death, where he declared that America was finally starting to win again following Trump's re-election.
Was enough, and I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again.
Whether or not you agreed with his politics, you had to respect his passion. The man was still fighting for what he believed in, even as his body continued to fail him. His outspoken involvement sparked controversy, and during his final WWE appearance in January 2025, held as the program transitioned to Netflix, he was met with loud boos from the crowd. But boos were nothing new to Hogan. He had heard them plenty of times during his Hollywood Hogan era. The difference now was that he was being booed for being himself, not for playing a villain. Away from the spotlight, though, the Hulkster was quietly doing something few ever knew about. In the final months of his life, he began focusing on charitable work, helping fellow wrestling veterans who were struggling with their own health and financial challenges. The same man who was once accused of holding others down was now trying to lift them up. His final public photo, taken not long before his passing, showed a frail and almost unrecognizable version of the legend, a picture that quickly went viral and left fans heartbroken. It was more devastating than any heel turn in wrestling history. This wasn't the immortal Hulk Hogan anymore. This was a 71-year-old man who had sacrificed everything to entertain the world. And for the first time, the world was seeing the real price of that devotion. Yet even as his body failed him, his spirit refused to quit. Hogan had filmed over 20 hours of interviews for an upcoming Netflix and WWE documentary about his life, which was still in production at the time of his death. He was determined to tell his story, the whole story, not just the highlight reel fans had watched for decades. The man who had entertained millions was now preparing for his final performance, not inside the wrestling ring, but before the judgment seat of his own conscience. And, as we would soon learn, that final act would become the most controversial match of his entire life. When legends fall, the truth that defined and divided the Hulkster rises to the surface. Every great wrestler has their dark matches, those moments that fans wish they could forget, but that shape a legacy just as much as the championship wins. For Hulk Hogan, his darkest match wasn't against Andre the Giant or Macho Man Randy Savage. It was against his own inner demons. The fallout from that battle would tear his family apart in ways that no amount of faith or redemption could ever fully mend. The scandal that would become Hogan's most infamous heel turn didn't take place under bright arena lights. It happened behind closed doors in a bedroom in 2007. The world wouldn't find out until 2015, when leaked recordings exposed Hogan using racial slurs while discussing Brooke's love life, a controversy that reignited old wounds and likely deepened the painful divide between father and daughter. Hogan apologized, saying it was wrong and unacceptable for him to use such offensive language, admitting there was no excuse for it. But brothers and sisters, some things once said can never be taken back. The leaked audio wasn't just embarrassing, it was devastating. The kind of blow that would make a steel cage collapse look like nothing. The man who had once been a hero to kids of every race, who preached about training, prayers, and vitamins, was now caught using words so shameful they couldn't even be repeated publicly. What made it worse was that he was talking about his own daughter's relationships. The racism scandal led to Hogan's temporary removal from the WWE Hall of Fame and a massive public backlash. Though he was reinstated in 2018 after apologizing, the damage had already been done. Think about that for a second. The man who headlined the first 9 WrestleManias, who helped build WWE into a global brand, was wiped from its history like he had never existed. That wasn't just a hit to his career, it was a complete destruction of his legacy. But the real pain came at home. Brooke distanced herself from both parents for her own peace, saying her father's scandals, including the racism and sex tape controversies, were too much to bear. She even changed her last name to Alexi after marriage, wanting to completely separate from the Hogan identity. Imagine that your own daughter is so ashamed that she removes your name from her life. That's not just a personal loss, that's a heartbreak deeper than any fall from the top rope. The name Hogan had once stood for heroism, pride, and doing what's right, but now his own family wanted nothing to do with it.
I do relate to it because it gets to a point where it's where politics stop and people start. And that's where you really have to say, what is the soul of a person all about? Just, it doesn't matter. Anything else doesn't matter.
Stallone's words hit like a steel chair to the conscience because at the end of the day, it's not about the character you play in the ring. It's about the person you are when the lights go out. The wrestling world was split right down the middle. Some fans stood by their childhood hero, believing that everyone makes mistakes and deserves a second chance, while others, especially black wrestling fans, felt betrayed by someone they had once admired. Hogan's legacy became complicated, especially because of his racist remarks that led to his temporary removal from the WWE Hall of Fame in 2015. But those comments were only part of the storm that surrounded his final years. The 2012 sex tape scandal with Jennifer McDaniel, secretly recorded in 2007 and published by Gawker Media, shattered his image and played a big role in the collapse of his marriage. Hogan fired back with a $100 million lawsuit against Gawker for defamation and invasion of privacy, ultimately winning $140 million in damages in 2016, an outcome that drove Gawker into bankruptcy. The irony couldn't have been thicker. The man who built his fame on being larger than life was now having his most private, vulnerable moments exposed to the world. And in those moments, caught on hidden camera, the real Terry Bollea was revealed not the superhero Hulk Hogan, not the villainous Hollywood Hogan, but a flawed man making choices that stripped away the myth. The financial toll was just as brutal as the emotional one. Years of lavish living and non-stop legal battles left Hogan nearly broke by 2011, dropping his net worth from hundreds of millions to around $25 million by 2021, a painful reminder that even legends can fall hard when the spotlight fades. The man who once lived like a king was now counting pennies like a territory wrestler in the 1970s, but the most heartbreaking loss from all his scandals wasn't money or fame. It was his relationship with his daughter. Despite their long estrangement, Brooke always insisted their bond could never fully be broken. She spoke of a spiritual connection, saying, "My dad's blood runs through my veins. His eyes shine through my children." Even after all the pain, the racist remarks about her dating life, the public humiliation, and the years of silence, she still loved the man who raised her. Brooke's biggest act of strength, her ultimate finishing move, came when she decided to completely distance herself from her father's legacy. While exact details about her being removed from Hogan's will remain unclear, her total separation legally, financially, and emotionally spoke louder than any public statement. Her absence from Hogan's 2023 wedding to Sky Daily made that divide painfully clear. Her husband, Stephen Alexi, tried multiple times to repair the relationship, reaching out during major moments like Brooke's near-death experience during childbirth in January 2025, when she gave birth to twins, Oliver and Molly. But Hogan reportedly stayed distant, showing little interest and never meeting his own grandchildren. Let that sink in, like a steel chair shot to the skull. The man who brought joy to millions of kids around the world never met the children of his own daughter. That's not just a sad ending. That's a tragedy straight out of Shakespeare. Yet even in death, Hogan had loyal friends like Sylvester Stallone who defended his right to believe in what he stood for. But sometimes, brother, standing up for what you believe in means standing completely alone.
Not afraid to stand up, as you just mentioned, and put himself on the line for his beliefs, and that's to be commended. Always.
Sources reported by TMZ and the Daily Mail suggested that Hogan only wanted a relationship with Brooke on his own terms, setting strict boundaries that kept her at a distance. The same control freak who once dominated the wrestling ring was now trying to run his family life like one of his scripted storylines, and it backfired worse than his stint as the Hulkster in Thunder in Paradise. In the end, Terry Gene Bollea died much like he had lived in his later years, a man caught between the larger-than-life hero he created and the flawed human being he truly was. The yellow and red had faded, the entrance music had gone silent, and what was left was a 71-year-old man who had given everything to entertain the world, only to lose the most important matches of his life, the ones against his own family. The hospital footage showing his final moments wasn't just the end of Hulk Hogan's life, it was the closing scene of one of wrestling's most complex stories. A story of triumph and tragedy, of hero and villain, of a man who inspired millions, yet couldn't inspire forgiveness in his own daughter. As the 10-bell salute echoed through wrestling arenas around the world, one truth rang louder than the cheers of any crowd. Legends never die, but the men behind them often die alone. Thanks for watching, folks. We say goodbye to yet another unforgettable story. For more content like this, click the card showing on your screen.